appreciate you taking the time. We're going to talk about successful listing presentations and what are you doing? Let me make sure my sound is up. What do you do or what can you do to show value to your potential client? If they don't know you, if it's not a repeat sale, how do you get the business? How can you show that you're already working for them before you're actually working for them? Does anybody have some thoughts on that? What can you do to kind of differentiate yourself before you even have the listing appointment? No one wants to share?
Give a free CMA.
You can, right? You can give them a valuation before you show up and say we can discuss the details and such beforehand. Levon, what kind of CMA would you give them?
As far as what
Details.
specifics you mean?
Uh-huh. Like how much detail would you go into?
Well, I go into lot size, house size, bedroom size. I check freeway boundaries. I check community boundaries sometimes. I check all kinds of things. So it like kind of an age geographic. Sometimes I do that too. I also check other things besides the Metro list, sometimes like Zillow and other engines.
Yeah. Does anybody ever send them a tax record or to check for any discrepancies? Like maybe they've done an addition and it's not in the tax record because it wasn't permitted. Like,
Yes,
ever happen?
yes,
I know that's happened to you, Levon.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, that does happen. So tax record's really good to send them. RPR is really, really detailed. One thing that I like to ask them about and show some information is on just within their specific community, quarter mile radius is good, but also just kind of in the city itself, what's been going on. If you can go into Real Trends, I think it is, you can get a lot of different reports on here's your city, here's the county, here's what's going on in the area. But the school report's also a big deal because I've had people ask me, well, what's the most important thing? Who's the buyer, right? Figure out who the buyer is going to be for that property and then market to that. Um, you might ask them why they moved to that house because that might give you some insight into who the buyers are going to be. Probably going to be somebody just like they were when they moved in. But I know schools is a huge issue. So if you can give a school report to your seller and say, hey, look, here's what I found on the schools in the area here. Is there anything else that's important to you or you feel like would be important for buyers to know? That would be good. You can start asking them questions before you go to a listing appointment, right? You can say, look, I'm going to prepare a property valuation report, like Levon was saying, but I'd really like to know some more details. You have a minute for a couple questions? I just want to make sure I'm very thorough with how we're marketing or how we can plan to do our marketing. Kind of start to show them that you're working for them before you're working for them. Does that make sense? Okay. Does anybody else have like a pre-listing process that they do? Anybody want to share anything on that?
I want to share something.
Yeah, great.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Someone's calling you.
Okay, someone was calling.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I was asking me to, he's thinking to put his property on the market. He has a lot. And I was just checking yesterday tax record. And we find out that owner is someone else, not him.
What? It was never recorded or
No, it's something happened. He purchased that 2005, but 2022 it was like new owners. And I asked him, he was shocked. He doesn't know what does it mean. And so he told me that he will go to record office and he will research why. Maybe it's mistake in the record office or something. I don't know. But on the tax, it was another owner and address where is tax, he's paying taxes. But it's interesting, someone else address that he doesn't know who is that was on the top, but he said that he's receiving and he is paying tax for a property. So I don't know what's going on, but it was interesting.
Yeah, that would be a call to a title company and then a call to an attorney,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it sounds like there could be some title fraud going on.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll
so if
see.
he didn't sell it, there's a problem, and he needs to contact those two. I would call the title company, whoever he worked with that he closed with, and then I'd also call an attorney and find out what's going on. Okay, so that's good to know. Like I said, tax records are interesting because a lot of times we have a seller and they're like, "Yeah, I'm the owner of the property," but they may be a part of a trust. They may be siblings of in an estate situation. You don't really know until you pull the tax record of who's officially the owner. And to Lilia's point, maybe you're not the owner and you don't know it, and that's a problem. But if you a lot of times I will hear people sign a listing agreement and then it will say estate of so and so, and it's not their name. Well, okay, how are you connected? You're going to need some sort of representative capacity to sell on behalf of this person. Is it an estate? Are you an executor? Are you a trustee? And if it's a trust, everybody in the trust, all the trustees have to sign. You can't just have one trustee unless you've got documentation to show otherwise. This is how we get into trouble. So you need to make sure everybody who's an owner that is listed on title is signing, unless you've got some sort of representative capacity and you've got a power of attorney or something. You have to have proof of that. Otherwise, you could get to the closing and maybe it's siblings and one sibling doesn't want to sell, or who knows what, right? It could be a real mess. So you need to get that cleared up right away and make sure that everybody that's on title, that's why I like to check the tax record first, because sometimes they'll sign it as their name and then at the end of the day they're like, oh, but it's a trust. Well, they didn't tell me it was a trust, so I wrote everything as this person's name when they're not the seller. The trust is the seller. So you have to get your documentation right, and you need to fill out your forms right. Just it'll create more headaches down the road. So double check that and ask: is this in a trust? Are you is it an estate, probate, whatever? I have seen so many times where agents are doing a contract and then they say, oh well, it's in probate. Okay, well, has the judge signed off on this? Like, where are we at with that? Because I've had people say, well, their mother died a year ago and they just got around to selling it. Okay, that's fine. How can you prove that this person has the legal ability to sell it? Especially if it hasn't gone through probate. That's a problem. So, um, anyway, let's get back on track. I wanted to talk to you about pre-listing procedures. What can you do to show that you can become their agent before you're their agent? So they already say, "Oh yeah, you're obviously the person I want to work with." What other things could you present to them that say, "I'm a professional. Here's what I have lined up for you." What can you do? Do you have any more suggestions before I throw some out to you guys? I'd love to hear what you're doing. Okay, how many of you have listed a house before? I guess I should ask that. Lilia and me and Jeff and Levon. I'm assuming Melissa as well. Um, so this might be a really good discussion because how can you win a listing against other agents who have sold a lot of houses, right? As a listing agent. I used to do mostly listings, and one of the things that I did, I'll give you a couple of things that I've done. One was I worked with Realtor.com to become a featured agent, so all my listings had kind of priority on the feed. That's a good idea. You can still kind of do that. One other thing that I did was I would do a market analysis with actives pending solds in the neighborhood, and I'd bring it with me. The one-page report that you can pull down from MetroList that shows what the competition is in the neighborhood, and I would preview the competition if I could. So I could say, hey, I've looked at these listings. Have you had a chance to look at these other properties? Sometimes they know the people, sometimes they don't. They're not familiar, but it's up to you to be the expert, right? And then you say, okay, what is your expectation as far as listing price? What did you have in mind? Do you need some help kind of landing on that, or do you already pretty much have an idea of where you want to go? If you don't know that, don't give them a number because you're going to offend them one way or another, either too high or too low. You need to let them guide that conversation. And you say, great, as a realtor, my job is to test the market for you. We can put the list price at X based on the actives, pendings, and sold that are in the community, and you're choosing this number. Super great. So we need to have a plan. If we don't get a lot of traffic, within the first week, what's our plan? We can test the market at this number, and if we don't get a lot of activity, that means we need to make a change. Do you agree? Okay, but I'm not the one that's going to tell you what to list it at, and the market is going to tell us what the home should be listed at. Does that make sense? Right? Because if I just give you a number, and this happens, agents or homeowners will say, well, I want this. I need this much money out of my house. I can't sell it for less than that. Okay, well, why? What are you planning to do with your proceeds? What's your goal? Where are you going from there? Is the number realistic? And sometimes it isn't. And you have to kind of back it up with data. It's not you. You can only say what the market is doing. Hi, Brad. I see you want to say something.
Oh no, I was just coughing. Sorry.
That's all good. You can cough all you want. I do all the time. Okay, so you need to frame it in the way that you are helping them get to the best, highest and best value, but they need to be informed before they pick a number. Does that make sense? So you need to give them as much data as you can and then say, okay, how did you arrive at that number? Okay, that's great. Can I share some data with you? Right? So that you're not the one saying, well, that's not right. Here's what I see. Like, you have to be a collaborative party, right? It's not you against them, it's you and them. How can we work together to get your house, to get the number that you want? I have some stagers we can talk to. I can put it on a broker tour so we can have other agents come through the property and give you their professional opinion on things that we should either address or that are going to help sell the property. And they'll also give you their professional opinion of what it would sell for. Would that be helpful? Right? So broker tours are a really good tool because that is, again, not you, it's the market telling them this is where we think this would sell. This is, and when you put on broker tour, a lot of times agents will say, I've got a buyer. Somebody I've been looking, has been looking, and this would be a really great house for them. So broker tour is another way to differentiate yourself and give them more value when you're at that listing presentation. Really, really good feedback. Stagers, you can have a stager come through and do from a bare bones basic, like let's use what you have and just help you declutter, depersonalize, and move furniture around so the traffic flow is very good. Give them some tips, and I offer that free. Like, they will not charge you for that, and if they do, I'll pay it, but it's usually free. Then the stager will say, okay, do you want partial staging or full staging, right? If it's a vacant home, I usually partially stage the home, and stage homes sell for more money across the board than a vacant house, right? So again, that's another way you can add value. You can put that in your commission, right? I always work that into my commission fee because I'm paying for that, but I'm going to help them get more money by showing the house in its best possible light. So if I want my seller to get the most profit, then I need to position this property from day one that it's going to look good. It's going to show well. The pictures are going to be professional pictures. And we're going to have some consultants working on this team with us to make sure that they can hit the number that they want. So there's a couple things you can do. One is maybe, so line up a stager, maybe introduce them to a vendor that they might need based on your walkthrough. So solve a problem while you're already there. You can talk about Fathom offers. What's your timeline? Do you need it sold next week? Do you have 60 days? Are you moving out of state? Like, what is your timeline? What's your situation? Because that will also guide us on what our marketing strategy is going to be and what our list pricing strategy should be, right? So you're working with them on like as a consultant, right, as a professional. And the idea is to meet their goals with the team that you can provide, with the different services you provide. The home warranty is another way for sellers to look better to a buyer, because if you already have done your home inspections and you can post those ahead of time, address any major issues that pop up, that's going to keep them from being beat up by the buyer when they're in escrow saying, I want a credit, I want this, I want you to reduce the price, whatever. That will go a long way. It's a few $100 to get the home inspection, but it goes a long way towards keeping the value higher when you sell. So seller home warranty can be done. Inspections should be done ahead of time. If they don't want to do it, I would ask why. For me, that's a why not question, because they should want to do that. Again, as I was saying, in the Bay Area, you've got these preemptive offers that come in. Well, they also have preemptive disclosures. So a lot of times they're using HomeLight or some other listing platform where they're already disclosing everything because they don't want to be in a negotiations kind of strategy for very long. They want to negotiate, they want to hit the number, they want to pick the closing date, and they want to close with the least amount of drama. So to eliminate drama, you need to eliminate the variables, and that means get an inspection and provide a home warranty. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Does anybody want to throw anything in here? Anything else you can do on a listing? What else would we do? Nobody wants to share.
I'll add, you can do a couple things. I mean, you can, depending on the title and person you're working with, and if they're giving you their tools, you can actually come in with a net sheet, because you can actually pull title records and know, roughly idea what loan balances they have. So it's very preliminary, but it at least gives you a little bit of an idea of what that net proceeds are going to look like. And that falls into the conversation as well of what they feel their value would be. And you can create those on the fly with that app through the title agencies. As well as also another way to add value is to utilize me in that. And if you keep me posted on when you're going on the listing appointment, I usually try to break that time slot away, so that that way when you call me, because a lot of those conversations are they're relocating or they're moving up or they're moving down. And what better way than to have the team there and have some discussions and preliminary discussions on what that's going to look like for that individual as well during that listing appointment.
Yeah, yeah. Because if they're selling, they're not going to be there. So where are they going, right? That's the question
Yep.
you should be asking. If they're willing to share, right? And you can say, look, we also do relocation services. I can do X, Y, and Z. I can refer you to another agent. We can get you pre-qualified. We can set you up with some property searches and all of those things. Plus, we also have this lovely other program called, oh my gosh, Hometown Heroes. Right? And do they qualify for that?
Yep.
Another benefit. So there's a lot of things that we have at our disposal. And then you've got Fathom offers, right? Maybe they would want to look at their Fathom offers, based again on what their goals are for timeline and what their exit strategy is. So yeah, and the second thing I know Brad can do is he also provides open house flyers for you too, with, hey, if you've got this kind of financing, here's what your payment would be with this, right? So you can kind of see, okay, could I afford this home? Can I not afford this home? People coming through the property would have that as well. So that's really helpful.
To title fraud and that possible scenario. One thing that I've noticed as well is the counties in Cali are starting to send out confirmations of any grantees that are being recorded. So they will go to the seller's, last known address, whether it be a change of address or just the last known, and it gets forwarded. But it's basically saying that, hey, just so you're aware, this came through as a transaction. If you were aware of this and this was part of you, then no need to do anything. But otherwise, it's a notification, so that that way they know, the seller knows whether there's a fraud attempt or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting, because I was thinking about this too, Brad. Because I know county records will show like title and stuff. I don't know if my signature is out there for the world to see on documents. I'm not really sure.
It is, and there's been a heavy increase on escrow companies with their notaries. I know of a handful of them where their notary stamp has been compromised, and they've had to file theft reports with the local authorities for title fraud using their notary stamp.
Yeah, it's a big business, and especially if it's a lot, I can see how that would be something that got overlooked, because there's nobody moving in or moving out. It's just a piece of land, and that could be probably more easily stolen.
Yeah, especially the vacant ones. There's a lot of buzz on the internet for the title fraud for squatting and taking possession, because possession is 50% of the battle. And so you just definitely, if it's vacant, you definitely got to monitor it and make sure. And this is also where you can bring value when you are sitting with clients and they are building that estate and they're looking, or they have rental properties, share that information with them, because what you don't know, they don't know.
Ask who owns it. I look at the title report right out the gate.
Yep.
Every time. Excuse me. I probably told that story before, but the house that I live in now was owned by someone, but it was listed by a relative. And when it went into escrow, I pulled it up and I was like, hold on, who's this other person? And it was a mess. It took us a little extra longer. They were relatives, but everything had been signed under the person who listed it, not the person who owned it. And so we had to unwind some of that. And then there was the other discussion of when taxes are due. Do you guys know when taxes are due?
The no darn fooling around rule.
Yep.
Yeah. So there is a specific time the property taxes are due and they record. And ours, whatever reason, we picked the closing date when taxes were due, the same day. And the owner said, okay, well, I'm not going to sell the property to you unless you pay my taxes. And I was like, not happening. So we lawyered up and we said, no. And it took us an extra week and a half to close. But, you know, things happen. So you have to be really vigilant. Again, with, you know, chain of title, who owns what? Are you talking to all the people that are making the decisions? Be sure that you know. So if it's an estate or something like that, they should provide those records to the title company as well. I know I have one agent who sells a lot of property where it's owners who are deceased and such. And so there's usually a will that goes into my Intel agent. And there's usually, you know, something that says so-and-so has power of attorney. All of those things are required. And if you look at the purchase contract, it even says you have 3 days to show that you've got proof of who's selling is the right person. So if you're not following that, you need to get on that. So just be careful. That's one thing I see a lot is just paperwork not filled out properly because owners, agents may not know what they don't know. But you really have to vet those sellers. Buyers too, right? They could say, hey, I'm an LLC. That's super. Show me your LLC documents. I need your articles of incorporation, right? If they can't provide it, that could be pretty dicey. So they have to provide it to title as well. And you have 3 days from the time that they're in contract to do it. So get your RCSD, which is your representative capacity signature disclosure for buyer or seller, for titles, trusts, trust advisory, LLCs, entities, all of that. Okay, that's the best way to protect you and the seller, so that it doesn't cause a headache at the closing. They're like, why didn't you know that? Don't be that guy. So do your due diligence ahead of time before you list anything. Does anybody have questions about going into a listing? What should be brought with you? I know sometimes there's another lady I know who provided a whole binder before she even went to the listing. The day before, she provided them a binder with the title report, school report, neighborhood report, market report, like all of the stuff that you could think of right in there, and then a questionnaire that they could fill out ahead of time. You know, what are the most important assets of your house? Have you done any upgrades? Like all of that stuff was kind of pre-done, so we could arrive, you know, do you have a list price in mind? Like all of that stuff was kind of prefab filled out, so when the agent got to the property, they could just say, okay, you know, thank you for taking the time to fill this out. Did you have any questions about what I provided? That kind of thing. And then you can go into, you know, broker price opinions and or broker tours and your marketing strategy. But you kind of need to know where they're coming from before you start giving any kind of presentation. You need to ask some questions. That way you're hitting the mark. Sometimes we get all in our head of, you know, I'm going to give this great presentation, and then you get there and maybe it's not at all what they were looking for. So make sure you ask a lot of questions. You know, what's your timeline? Where are you going from here? So exciting that you're moving. Where are you going? Oh, that's great. Why are you going? You know, those are things you should know, and you can do it in a conversational way. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Brad?
Not necessarily on that, but on the NAR settlement, any of the commissions that'll be paid to the buyer, you know, whether it be part of the contract, but more so if it's outside the agreement from the original listing agreement, and then you know, it's in the offer for you pay additional money, anything that's going to be paid by the sellers toward the buyer commissions for the budget will not be included into the overall percentage of concessions. So that's a big win on that front, especially with the lower down payment that usually caps out at 3%. Now they haven't given us any direction as to whether any of that's going to be financed. So we have to go with those standard rule as of now that it can't be. but at least we have that built in, that any commissions that are will be paid, either part of the agreement or negotiations, will not be part of that concession cap.
Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit on Thursday in our district meeting. But that's really good explanation on how that all works. I knew that it wasn't being counted as concession, but it's helpful to know kind of from your side how that all works. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's it for today. I just wanted to kind of give you some ideas on ways that you could show value more than just an agent saying, here's your market activity report or here's your comps. Don't do that at the listing. Try and do it ahead if you can. And then you can always ask them, hey, are you aware of any other properties that would be a good match for yours that's not on the list that I provided? Maybe there's some private sales they know of or whatever. Like, you really want to be kind of working with them instead of telling them how it's going to be, right? Does that make sense? So that you're showing them that you're going to be listening to them and that you're on their side, rather than, I'm this agent who's sold XYZ and my numbers are this, I'm the best number one agent, la 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 la, whatever it is. They don't care. They just want to know what you can do to help them out. So that's where you want to focus your conversation.
And that'll go a long way with the partnership in figuring out the price too, because the best thing you do is ask. Start with the motivation. Where's that going? Dig into the pain. Why are they leaving? They're moving to be closer to their daughter. Why is that? What's driving that? We just had my grandchild born. So you can really tap into that emotional level. And the reason that's important is because a lot of times also the seller, they have a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that home, and they're telling you what they want to list it for, and sometimes it's completely unrealistic. And all that's going to do is set you up for failure to be a bird agent. It doesn't sell at that price. So it's important to have that discussion and dialogue as well.
Yeah, and again, like I said, we're testing the market, right? I'm not the person who sets the price. You're not really the person that sets the price. We go with what the market is telling us. And the market could say, yes, it supports what we were thinking, or you know what, we're not seeing support for that price. We need to make an adjustment, right? We need a price improvement. That's what we call that in the marketing land. It's a price improvement.
Absolutely.
So same thing, you can pitch that again at your next marketing meeting with your local board. Hey, we have a price improvement, blah, blah, blah. Owners are giving away this concession or blah, 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 whatever it is. But if the number isn't there, if the market isn't supporting the list price, then you need to be the one that says, okay, that's all right. Here's the plan, and let them know. Is that, do you have buy-in on that? I forgot what I was going to say, Brad, but you're right. It has to be question, because you really need to know, hey, have you sold a house before? Is this your first home? Is this your first experience selling? Or have you worked with agents in the past? What did you love about them? How do you like to be communicated with? Are you a texter? Are you an emailer? Do you like phone calls? What's the best time to reach you? Those things are important, so that they feel like you hear them and you're on their side. Like I said, you want to show that you
take lots of notes.
Yeah, you want to take lots of notes, and you can always wrap it up with, okay, based on my notes, here's what happens next, because that's what they want to know. What happens next? Okay, then we get the listing agreement together. I can drop it by if you can't do it right there, or if you don't have one printed out, we could do it right now, or however you want to do that. But you want to give them a what's next, because that's what they want to know. You're going to help guide them.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm dealing with the Real Fun probate listing right now. I just wanted to give some of these agents advice that just to be sensitive with the issue, because you will be dealing with people in the probate side that have passed, and they've been at the home for 30 something years. And so now there's nobody around to sell the place. And they had an executor that is doing the due diligence of selling the listing. So gathering really critical information, if they have death certificates available. There was a will there, but we thought it was the original will, but it wasn't. So title and a couple of the law firms that are involved gave us a codicil that was for the will. So it had been changed during the process. So even if they think they have a will to their estate, they probably won't. So make sure that you have the right paperwork going into one of these critical probate listings like the one I'm dealing with right now. So yeah, they're fun, but they have a lot of stuff that you need to do going in.
Yeah. Lydia, do you always work with an attorney? Do you have a probate attorney that you say, that you
I have one here in Sacramento that's working, the one that I'm on right now. It's called Drobny Law. And they're on Truxell Road, a very good probate company, legal team there.
Mhm.
And like I said, they, had been assigned from the estate holder. So I'm glad that we did go to them before we even did the listing, because we would have found out that there's other players that weren't involved in the listing anymore. Just like you said, you don't know who these people are that say they are the owners or not, but we did get correction for who was on title afterwards.
Yeah, who
So
has the right to sell it, because
yeah, they're fun. But if you guys ever need any help doing one of these probates, reach out to me. I'll guide you along it, since I've done a few.
yeah, yeah. It's a good niche. I've done a few as well. We just had one close in December. And that was a very smooth one because the agent on the other side was very experienced as well.
Yeah, and I had to go in and do a lot of stuff myself, because basically there's someone there that doesn't know anything about the house going forward. So we ordered like a pre-inspection of the house to know anything that was wrong with it. Uh, right away, you get all these people that are investors that are going to try to grab it right away because they know there's a probate involved. So they have a little person that gives them all the probates of people that have deceased and left these houses recently. So then they start throwing their offers in, lowball offers, but you deal with a lot of that in the beginning. But you will have to do a little bit of legwork, getting your listing going, because nobody knows anything about the property. So pre-inspection is a good idea to do for one of those probates.
Yeah,
I know you guys were talking about what to do prior to a listing. So I did a pre-inspection on it so we can know things were wrong. And if anything needs fixing, of course, you pay for the items or whoever, and then you get reimbursed by title. So the attorneys are always really good at reimbursing you back for any expenditures that you do. So if you guys need any more help with anything like this, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to, help you out. If it's a probate, I've done trusts. So where there's like 4 or 5 parties involved, they all want a chunk of their money. But yeah, reach out to me and I'll guide you through it if you guys need help with one of those probates or trust listings.
really great. Thank you, Lydia.
You're welcome.
Yeah, they're a different animal for sure. And sometimes
They are.
they need court confirmation. So
I grow gray hair with it.
yeah, you can wait a long time. Probates can be 6 months in escrow. So
This one wasn't approved.
Yeah.
So we got lucky that the courts did approve them. When they're approved, they're much easier. You just get the offer, you send it into the attorneys. They do a customary kind of letter then that says you're good to go, and it closes quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a regular escrow.
Yep.
And cash is golden, so if you get the right money for your listing.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes you have a buyer and they're not realistic. They don't realize when they see it in the MLS or whatever
Right.
when they're looking
Right.
on search engine, right? And they say probate, and they're oh, it's such a good deal. It's probate.
Right.
Okay, do you have
And be clear to disclose that the person has deceased if it was in the house. It's a mandatory law. We all know we have the 3-year law there, but yeah, they will ask you, what did the party die of? You can say natural cause if that's the case, but sometimes they want to see the copy of the death certificate, which is a total no-no. You only share that with, titles and other parties, but not with the occupant or whoever's buying or wanting to purchase.
Yeah. Yeah. All good tips. Thank you, Lydia.
You're
We should
welcome.
do a class on that too.
Glad to see you guys.
All good. Okay, so I think I have a quick little list of comments. I'll add some comments from Lydia onto my list before I hand it out today. And then when this recording comes up, it usually takes an hour or two for it to do its thing and come back to me. So anyhow, I think that's it for today. If you had your contact information in the chat, please, like I said, that's all there just for you guys to connect with each other. If you need me, shoot me a text or call or email. I'll be happy to help you. But like I said, as far as statistics go, 6 million houses sold in 2022, 4 million sold in 2023. So that tells us less homes for sale. So we want to make sure that we are armed with good information. And when we get in front of a seller or potential seller, we can really win that listing. Okay. So have a great week, you guys. Good seeing you. And we'll talk soon.
Hey Krista, I have a question. Whatever you mentioned for the new agents like us, do we have any kind of a checklist or guideline? Like, okay, these are the few things that we need to do before we talk to the seller or just over. I know like we have a listing presentation, but
Yeah, there,
anything
you
for
know what? Not intelligent, in Zip Forms, CAR
hmm.
has a form that is called a transaction checklist. It's like 102 things that you can do for your listing from like day one through closing. So
I see.
as a newer agent, that's what I used. It's a good way to make sure you're not missing anything.
They kind of look like this. You can print them out and have them ready in your desk.
Or if you want like when to order the sign and where, you know, there's a lot of details and people don't realize, like I posted in Facebook last week. So realtors just show houses and get paid lots of money. Like that's what they do. True or false? And
That's a
agents
good
get down there
question.
and they're just like eye roll and like if only, right? There's a lot that we do. And so if you go onto Zip Forms and you type in two things. One, always check the transaction checklist, print that out. Second one, always use a cover sheet. So before you fill out any documents in Zip Forms, fill out the cover sheet because that pre-populates everything to every form that you need for that transaction. You'll never spell a name wrong. You'll never miss a phone number or email. It's all done for you. So those are the two tips I tell new agents. Make sure
I think you're muted. Yeah.
muted.
There,
Yeah,
now we can hear you.
for
There
a
you go.
second. Yeah, but I think we were doing lip reading or something. So
I don't know. That's weird. I haven't muted anything. Anyway, okay. So transaction checklist cover sheet, Mitesh, and then talk to Joseph, who's trying to call me right now. All right,
yeah,
guys.
and
Yeah.
one last thing, adding us into that mastermind Facebook group. Did you add us?
Did I already add you in there or no?
No, 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 no.
Okay. Did you already friend me on Facebook?
Yeah, you are my friend now, I guess. Let me check. Yeah.
Everybody that friended me, I added. So let me just double check here and I'll add you. No problem.
Um,
Let's
yeah,
see.
it looks like we are. Yeah.
California Fathom Masterminds, invite. Let me put your name in and see what happens here. Invite. There you go. All right, Mitesh, you're in.
Thank you so much. Thank
All
you.
right. Good, good. Thank you for letting me know. And then have a great week, you guys. Can't wait to see you next Monday. Have a good week.
Thank
Great
you,
seeing
Chris.
everybody.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you
Bye.
all.